Hi, my name is Jordan Jacobson. I've been asked to do a video of some warm-ups that you can do at home while we're all trapped in our houses for a while. I hope you're practicing a lot. So I'm a big advocate of doing what I like to call the fundamentals, and these are things that are going to help you develop skills that you'll be able to use in any piece that you may come across, whether it's your band repertoire or solo pieces or regional or all-state audition pieces. So this sort of techniques will give you the skills that you need to work on that repertoire. So one of the first things I do every day is just lip slurs, and I like to start really simple. You probably heard people doing all kinds of lip slurs, but I like to start really simple in the mid-register, and then I work from there outwards. So you're welcome to do these along with me. I'm going to go from B flat at the top of the staff down to F and back up. And what you're looking for is a really even, full, warm, open, beautiful trombone sound. And the other thing you're looking for is a really smooth transition between the top note and the bottom note and back up. And we want to just make it as smooth as glass so there's no big bumps. One thing that a lot of students do, or younger players do, is they kind of tend to cut off the air in between the notes, but you really need to maintain an even air support. The other thing that you can do that's helpful can be to do a little bit of mouthpiece buzzing. And if you find that you're having a hard time getting some of the notes to come out evenly, you can do a little bit of mouthpiece, and smoothly, you can do a little bit of mouthpiece buzzing between the top pitch and the bottom pitch and back up, with a fair amount of glissando in between to really practice a smooth transition and keeping that air support going. I'm going to switch down to a lower F to B flat, the lower B flat. And let's say, for instance, maybe I didn't love how smooth that was, or it wasn't open as resonant as sound that I wanted to get, so I can go back and do some of that on the mouthpiece if it depends on the day how you're feeling, but some days maybe feel better than others, and if you feel like, oh, I'm really having a hard time getting the sound I want today, then you might try it with the mouthpiece. Go back to the horn. Now, there's not one correct set of lip slurs to do, but I'm going to take you through a few. You may have heard people do other ones, and that's okay. Like I say, I like to start with really simple ones in the middle register, and then I kind of expand a little bit to the outer ranges of the horn. So I'm going to take you through a few of these, and you're welcome to follow along. So I'm going to go B flat, F, B flat, and back up. B flat to D. And then B flat, D, F. There's a few variations on this you can do. You can skip the D and do just B flat to F, which is useful. For now, I think this one's a little easier for most players rather than skipping over the partial, but you're welcome to do either. The next thing I'd like to do is a little exercise that I borrow out of the Brad Edwards lip slur book, which if you don't have is an excellent book. But this is something we use for natural slurs, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically going from one position to another, and we're not actually tonguing, and because we're going from one partial to another, we can get a really clean break without tonguing. It's very useful for our trombone playing if we're trying to play legato. So I'm going to start from first and go first to third. I'm going to start on B flat and go to C, then F to A flat, and B flat to E flat. You'll hear the pattern. These are my first notes of the day. So you may or may not have heard there was a little crackle in there that I didn't love. So I'm going to go ahead and try a little bit of that last one on the mouthpiece and see if I can get it to happen the way I want it to. Better. So now I'm going to take the whole pattern and move everything out one position. So second to fourth position now. Now everything third to fifth. And fourth to sixth. And so that's a set of lip slurs, and you can certainly, and as you advance in skill, certainly go beyond those. And I would, maybe reference that Brad Edwards book, or there are probably other sources you could look at. But at this point, I also like to then kind of go into some faster lip slurs. Everything up until now has been kind of slow. I'm trying to make it really smooth and even. And so now, even though I'm going to do something that's a little bit faster, you shouldn't do it any faster than you can do it well and still have it be really connected and even. So I'm going to do a little on the slow side, but this is something you can gradually take faster. It's probably something you've heard before, but goes like this, starts on an F. And so forth. Now the next thing I wanted to talk about was something we refer to as long tones. And there's a whole bunch of ways that you can do long tones. The point of long tones, they are what they sound like, is just to play some long notes. But the point is for us to have an opportunity just to work on tone and just thinking about what sort of tone that we're trying to get on the instrument. And of course, part of the point of this video is to hopefully me demonstrate a representative trombone sound, but you ought to also be listening to recordings of great trombone players, whether it's Christian Lindbergh or Joe Alessi or Wycliffe Gordon or J.J. Johnson or Curtis Fuller, whoever your guy or women might be, to be listening to good trombone playing and have a sort of concept in your mind of the way that you want to sound on the instrument. And this is just a moment to kind of work on just that aspect of your playing. So there's many ways to do this. You may have heard what many people call a Remington exercise, where you start in first position and move to second and back to first and to third. And etc. out to seventh. And you can start on a B flat, an F or B flat. That's a good one in terms of intonation, in terms of just covering the range of the instrument, all the positions. I also like to do long tone exercises just on scales. It kind of kills two birds with one stone. So I will pick sort of a different scale every day, perhaps. And if you're a jazz player or someone who has inclinations that way, it's good to also do these on whatever jazz scales you may be working on. But for now, let's pick something that is maybe not the easiest scale, but let's say something that most of you should be familiar with. Let's do a C major scale. And so we're just going to do it in whole notes, starting at the bottom and go on up. And again, pick any scale. You might want to do this with a tuner. You may want to do it with a metronome. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So I want to give you one last thing. The truth of the matter is I'm just giving you a few things, but there are, for any skill that you may be working on, and in the scope of this short video today, we don't have time to talk about everything, so I'm just trying to give you some really basic ones. But you would maybe, any skill that you may come across in your playing that you may need to work on, there is probably some sort of warm up or exercise that you could be doing as part of your daily warm up that's going to help you. With your playing, so that when you do get to some really gnarly lick in whatever piece you may be playing, that you will have the skills in place already to approach it. Some aspects of playing that come to mind that this might apply to that are things like double tonguing or triple tonguing, or your high range or low range, and so there are exercises for that sort of thing. And if you have questions about this, I'm sure that your band teacher can get in touch with me, or relay your questions to me if you have any. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is I had a teacher who always said that, or who would say that didn't feel like you were really warmed up until you had really played something articulate. And I happen to agree with that idea. So what I'm going to give you right now is kind of it's a two-in-one, another two-in-one exercise, but it's an exercise for intervals, so going between different pitches and different ranges, different sizes of intervals between pitches, and also an articulation exercise. So we're going to try to get a really clear, pointed articulation on each note. And I'm going to start on a low F, and I'm going to move up by half steps each time, and then back to the F each time. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction and go back down. Then I'm going to do the same thing on a B flat to a B flat. If you find there's a part where it's not really speaking, then you might want to take that section apart and do a little bit of mouthpiece buzzing, or just slow it down and do it again so you can really hear it, and so you can really make sure each note has a good, clean, clear articulation. The other thing is you want to make sure that you play with a nice full sound through all of this. It's really tempting. We did all that work a moment ago about lip slurs and long tones to try to work on getting just a beautiful trombone sound. And then the tendency of a lot of players is suddenly they do this kind of work and suddenly the sound shrinks down. Instead of playing with a really full sound, suddenly they're doing, that kind of thing. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep the full sound. We just did B flat to B flat, so we're going to keep moving up in the range. We're going to go D to D. Now F to F. Now some of you may want to stop there, and that's okay. I think it's good to kind of start to push our comfort range outwards. So if you're not really comfortable about this range, start to push it a little bit day by day. The thing you don't want to do as you go up higher is to pinch. So let the air do the work. Think faster air, colder air as you go up high, and try not to pinch off, and try not to tense up either. So try to be as relaxed as possible. If it doesn't come, that's okay. save it for tomorrow. But go as high as you can without pinching and without getting a really strained sound. Watch the intonation as you get up to the F sharp and the G, because the F sharp is in sharp 3 and the G is in sharp 2, so you want to make sure you really get those slotted into the correct position, otherwise they're not going to want to speak. Here we go. Alright, so there's some basic warm-up stuff. If you have any other questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer your questions. So let your band director know and they can put you in touch. Alright, thanks very much.